Danny's heart races watching his brother pull a man to the curb, then stomp down with brutal force. Teeth crack against concrete. Blood splatters. Derek stands over the broken body. Danny screams, but Derek is cold, distant. This is the moment that begins Derek's irreparable descent, and Danny's own initiation into a world of hate he wasn't ready to understand. How did a young man with promise become this monster? How did a brother become a stranger? And what happens when a child inherits a man's hatred? To answer that, we have to rewind the tape, all the way back to the roots of Derek's rage, and to the moment when innocence first cracked. We begin in Venice Beach, mid-1990s. Derek's world collapses the night his father is gunned down during a robbery. Frustrated and grieving, teenage Derek looks for someone to blame. He finds it in a local gang of neo-Nazis called the Disciples of Christ, led by the charismatic Cameron Alexander. They feed Derek's anger with simple answers. It's not circumstance or fate, but other people, minorities, immigrants, and outsiders who are to blame for his pain. This is indoctrination, the slow poison of hatred being taught in place of empathy. Psychologists note that hate is not an instinctual emotion, but a learned response born from fear, anger, and social pressure. Derek's environment has taught him to channel his terror and frustration into bigotry. As screenwriter David McKenna put it, "A person is not born a racist, it is learned through environment and the people that surround you." My premise was that hate starts in the family. That line, "hate starts in the family," is crucial. Derek's younger brother Danny idolizes him. As Derek's anger grows, he fills Danny's head with similar ideas. "Little Henry is only half black and you know he is my friend." By the film's opening, Danny is writing an essay titled American History X, trying to understand how his brother became who he is. Critic Gene Siskel praised the movie as shockingly powerful, and noted how it was effective at demonstrating how hate is taught from one generation to another. Indeed, the film shows how Derek's dark path is paved by family and community. Their mother, a devoted single parent, tries to steer Danny away from Derek's beliefs, but Derek's influence is too strong. To understand Derek's hate, we must see the world he came from. Los Angeles in the 1990s was a city still raw from deep racial wounds. Only a few years earlier, the Rodney King beating and the subsequent 1992 riots had exposed brutal racism in law enforcement. Tensions between black, Latino, and white communities were high. In that climate, fringe groups like neo-Nazis and skinheads found recruits and followers. In fact, violent white supremacist gangs actually existed in Southern California. For example, the Nazi Lowriders were a real neo-Nazi street and prison gang in California in the late 1990s. Other groups like the Aryan Brotherhood had long histories in California's prisons, even boasting estimates of tens of thousands of members by the decade's end. The film's villains don black boots and swastikas, but their beliefs echo the rhetoric of real groups whose violence scarred communities. Derek's descent into hatred accelerates after the loss of his father. Grief and confusion are quickly replaced by the seductive clarity of white supremacist ideology, offering him someone to blame for everything wrong in his world. He embraces it fully, channeling his pain toward racial minorities. This isn't just prejudice, it's ideological indoctrination, driven by fear, tribal instinct, and the pull of group identity. Psychologists say this us versus them mindset is deeply wired into human nature. We're quick to sort the world into sides by race, culture, or belief. In The Disciples of Christ, Derek doesn't just find a cause, he finds belonging. Soon he's parroting slogans, rallying followers, and committing acts of violence. In one chilling moment fueled by Cameron's influence, Derek targets a Hispanic man simply for avoiding eye contact. That fleeting glance becomes the spark igniting years of buried rage into something explosive and cruel. But every searing fire can be extinguished, sometimes in the unlikeliest places. Derek's moment of reckoning doesn't happen on the streets, but behind bars. After distancing himself from the Aryan Brotherhood, he's viciously attacked, not by another race, but by his own. The very people he once saw as allies beat and violate him, punishing him for walking away. It's after this brutal turning point that Derek meets Lamont, a black inmate assigned as his partner in the prison laundry. Their relationship starts with tension, but slowly, something unexpected grows: respect. Lamont doesn't confront Derek with rage or moral lectures. Instead, he uses humor, patience, and subtle empathy. Over time, Derek realizes that Lamont isn't his enemy. In fact, Lamont quietly helps protect him when Derek becomes a target in the yard. The friendship doesn't come from shared ideology, it comes from shared humanity, and that's what starts to unravel everything Derek thought he believed. Later, Danny's words in his essay echo what Derek comes to feel. Hate is baggage. Life's too short to be pissed off all the time. That line doesn't come from Lamont, but it embodies the transformation Derek begins through Lamont's quiet grace. In prison, stripped of his gang, his pride, and his identity, Derek discovers something stronger than hate: connection. This is the heart of the film's message. Direct human contact, even in the worst situations, can break down prejudice. Social psychologists call this the contact hypothesis. Under the right conditions, interaction between people of different groups can reduce stereotypes and hostility. In prison, away from Cameron's hateful influence, Derek sees black people as individuals, not as faceless enemies. He starts questioning everything he once believed. He reads books, even watching the same old movies he used to hate. To Kill a Mockingbird becomes a revelation. Bit by bit, his old armor of hate begins to crumble. By the time Derek is released, he is a changed man. His shoulders are still tattooed with symbols he despises, but in his heart he has rejected those lies. He returns home in color. Remember, his past was shown in black and white, and tries to build a new life. He finds work, and most importantly, he kneels to apologize to his mother for all the pain he caused. He also confronts his own resentment, realizing that he was using hatred to cope with fear and loss. This transformation is messy and incomplete. The film doesn't pretend it's easy. Critics were divided on the ending, some feeling it was rushed, but there's real emotional power in watching Derek's eyes open. Out in the streets, though, the world hasn't changed just because Derek has. Danny, now seeing through the lies he once believed, begins distancing himself from Derek's old associates. He heeds his brother's warnings, rethinks his views, and writes an essay denouncing the hate that once consumed them both. But just as he begins to step into a new path, one defined by understanding, not division, Danny is shot and killed in the school bathroom by a young black student, Little Henry. The boy is someone Danny previously clashed with, likely emboldened by the very cycle of violence and racism Derek once helped perpetuate. Derek arrives too late. He cradles his brother's lifeless body in his arms, overwhelmed by grief, guilt, and the realization that while he may have changed, the consequences of his past still ripple outward. It's a devastating reminder that personal redemption doesn't always undo the damage that's already been done. In the end, American History X is about one thing: breaking the cycle of hate. The tagline in Danny's essay rings true. I guess I just want people to know that hate, it runs both ways. This struggle feels very real. Experts agree. Hate is a learned behavior, not an irredeemable trait. And because it's learned, it can be unlearned. As Psychology Today notes, if hate isn't a born emotion, it can also be unlearned. That idea that people have a choice is the hard lesson Derek and Danny learn. The impact of American History X didn't end with the closing credits. Beyond the screen, the film sparked urgent conversations about race, hate, and redemption. In 1999, Amnesty International used the movie in college forums to foster discussions on human rights. Audiences across the world saw echoes of their own societal struggles, proof that while the specifics of injustice may differ from place to place, the underlying challenge remains the same: learning to choose empathy over division. The film reminds us that hatred is both deeply rooted and disturbingly delicate. It grows in silence, thrives on fear, but it can be unraveled slowly, painfully through connection, education, and courage. American History X doesn't pretend the journey is easy, but it dares to suggest it's possible. As one character observes, no one is born hating. Hate is something we learn in darkness, which means with enough light, we can also learn to let it go. Producer Michael DeLuca put it best: the film dramatically demonstrates both the subtle and overt roots of racism, while also showing the possibility for redemption.